Honestly, it's about time that we talk about a gay ship. Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. So yes, the time has finally come for us to talk about one of the most revolutionary Disney Channel ships, arguably of all time. And that is of course TJ and Cyrus from Andi Mack. Now, first to address the elephant in the room, unfortunately Andi Mack is not available for streaming in its entirety on Disney+. The only real way to watch the show these days is by purchasing it through either YouTube or Apple TV. And that is all thanks to a certain person in the cast that I honestly don't even want to talk about. I've touched on it before in previous videos, and so you can go watch those if you're curious. But honestly, all of that has absolutely nothing to do with Tyrus, and I really just don't want that to taint their love story because it is just so perfect as it is. And so we're just gonna move right along. So if you've never seen the show before, I do highly recommend checking it out, even though it is now behind a paywall, as there are just so many aspects of this show that I just love that I won't even get to touch on in this video. But to give you all the background info that you might need in case you are going into this video blind. Basically, the show follows our main character, Andi Mack, after she learns some shocking information about her past and her family. But that's honestly just like the tip of the iceberg in regards to this show. The rest of it is more so about Andi navigating her middle school life with her two best friends, Buffy and Cyrus. There's also her crush and on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jonah Beck, as well as his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Amber. It's complicated, and that's a video for another day. So Cyrus is more so our protag in this story, as he is one of our main characters, and he first meets TJ in the second season. But before we jump right into it though, I did want to show you guys my new glasses that I got from Pair Eyewear. So these are my new prescription glasses from Pair. These are the Reese frames in pink clear, and they're also blue light lenses, which is crucial for me. But let's say one day I'm not feeling the pink frames, bam, now they're green. What's really cool and unique about Pair Eyewear is their magnetic top frame. So these are the spruce frames, which I love. They also have a few Disney collaborations as well. So you guys know that I had to get my hands on one of those top frames. And so I chose the Tiana ones, also green, also love them. I also got a sunglasses top frame. So this is the black sun top, which is just so perfect for glasses wearers. I feel like it is so annoying to have to take your glasses off and then put your sunglasses on, or like have them sit over top and then it's just bulky and annoying. And so this was honestly like a game changer for me. The ordering process was also super easy as well. I was a little bit nervous as I had never ordered glasses online before, but with Pair's virtual try-on feature, I was able to see exactly what the frames would look like on. I also love the packaging. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, as you guys know that I love green, but I just love the box and the little bag that it comes with. So if you want to check out Pair Eyewear, you can click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code CaitlinGift15 for a free gift with purchase. Thank you so much to Pair Eyewear for sponsoring this portion of today's video, and with all that being said, let's get into Tyrus. So I figured we'd just do one chapter because their story is just so short, unfortunately. And to be able to cover TJ and Cyrus, we actually have to back up a little bit and first talk about TJ and Buffy, as Buffy is actually the one that meets him first. This happens while she's trying out for the boys' basketball team, as their school doesn't have a girls' team, and TJ just so happens to be the captain of said team. So during tryouts, he steals the ball from her while she goes to shoot and then checks her. She tells him that that was a foul, but he argues that this is a drill and that there are no fouls. This leads Buffy to ask him what his problem is and if this is how he treats his teammates. But TJ just scoffs as he tells her that she'll never know. And so, not exactly the best first impression of this guy. After school at the gang's usual hangout spot, Buffy tells her friends that she already knows that she didn't make the team because TJ hates her. Cyrus is then quick to say that he hates TJ before asking who TJ is. Buffy shares that he's the captain and that he kept calling her a little girl and telling her to go back to the playground. Cyrus woes at this and asks what she said to him, but Buffy says nothing. She's not going to trash the captain when she's actively trying to make the team. The following day, Cyrus and Andi go with Buffy to see if she made it. She does, and then the three of them celebrate. Afterwards, Buffy overhears TJ telling his friends not to worry and that she won't last long. And so Buffy goes over to him and introduces herself as the new shooting guard. TJ calls this funny as she looks like their newest bench warmer to him. He walks off and she calls after him, but isn't able to come up with a good comeback. And I know that all of this may not seem all that relevant to TJ and Cyrus, but I feel like it is some good background information on just like the type of guy TJ was when he first entered the picture. This then brings us to episode 5 when TJ makes his return. We start off with Andy and Cyrus watching Buffy's basketball game, but during the game, TJ refuses to pass her the ball even when she's wide open. He then goes on to tell his teammates not to pass to her either. He also steals the ball from her at one point and shoots it himself. But of course, Cyrus misses all of this, and instead he just cheers Buffy on for the great dish. When Andy gives him a look for saying this, he explains that that means assist. He also waves some signs that he brought in support of her, so all very adorable. Afterwards, Cyrus continues raving about the game. He says that it was great and that he's never had so much fun watching sports before. But then Buffy informs him that that was not a good game. Cyrus argues that they won, but Buffy says that the whole team made sure that she didn't get to do anything. He then tries to point out her amazing pass to TJ, but Buffy tells him that that wasn't a pass and that he stole the ball right out of her hands. The next day, Cyrus and Buffy come across TJ at the record store. Cyrus notes that he looks a lot meaner outside, and Buffy says that she's going to talk to him. Cyrus then grabs her by the arm and tells her that she can't just go over there and yell at him. He then asks her if there is a plan that doesn't involve yelling. She thinks this over before saying nope. And so Cyrus stops her again. He instead suggests that she try delicately opening a friendly dialogue with him, or something in between, and encourages her to try to not do what she usually does, and try to be nice instead. Or at least open with niceness. She agrees to try, but admits that if it doesn't work, there will be yelling. And so Buffy goes over there, and of course they end up yelling at each other. Cyrus watches their exchange from afar, and for some reason thinks that them clearly yelling at each other is a good thing. And this is all a callback to him thinking that he can read lips, which he obviously can't. A couple episodes later, we finally get our first real Cyrus and TJ interaction. Our story starts at lunch, where Cyrus is calculating his odds of getting a chocolate chip muffin. As they get closer to the front of the line, his friends encourage him. Andy notes that she thinks today is his day, but he shushes her out of the fear that she'll jinx it. He then panics that he won't do banana nut again, and just as he's freaking out about this, TJ and his friends cut in line. He then takes every last muffin and throws them to his friends, and when one of them fails to catch theirs, it lands on the floor. TJ then shrugs and steps on it as he leaves. This leads Cyrus to gape at the crushed muffin on the floor in sadness. The next day, we see Cyrus trying again to calculate his odds of getting a muffin, but the people in front of him outweigh the number of muffins that are left, and so he curses. He then calls it another day, another soul-crushing disappointment. Just then, TJ comes in. Buffy notes incoming, and I should preface this by adding that the previous day Buffy was asked to tutor TJ in algebra, but she refused. So he comes up to her and is quick to tell her that this is how it is. She has to tutor him, he's the team captain. But Buffy just tells him that it ain't gonna happen. TJ argues that if he isn't on the team, then she isn't gonna win another game. But Buffy just scoffs, retorting that if he doesn't pass her the ball, then why would she help him pass a class? And so TJ says, fine, he'll pass her the ball. Cyrus and Buffy share a glance at this, and then TJ asks if they have a deal. She then notices the last two muffins as she says no. He also has to get Cyrus a chocolate chip muffin. Then they have a deal. TJ laughs and asks if Cyrus can't get his own muffin. Cyrus tells Buffy that he didn't need this extra level of embarrassment before he turns back to TJ and admits that no, he can't. TJ concludes that he could do it, or he could teach a man to fish. Cyrus smiles at this, and so TJ puts his hand on his shoulder. He then gives him the instructions.
Walk to the muffin like you already own it.
He can't do that.
Hey, don't tell him what he can't do.
Dancing with danger is on my bucket list. Then what do?
Take the muffin.
That's it?
Just don't let anybody stand in your way.
So for a first interaction, I feel like this is pretty good. The way that he puts his hand on his shoulder and instructs him on what to do. And I also love just how quick he is to defend him to Buffy when she says that he can't do that. Which is funny because in this point in the series, he really doesn't know Cyrus at all. And yet he still has this like unwavering faith in him that I love. It's honestly one of my favorite parts of their dynamic. I mean, Cyrus is the type of person who's scared of everything and is always doubting himself. And I feel like he just needs somebody like TJ who is the complete opposite. He's that person who will be there for him to tell him that he can do it, even when it's something as simple as getting the last muffin. And so Cyrus heads over. TJ gives him a push and encouragement, but once he gets to the front, he forgets his teachings and nervously asks those in line if they mind if he... And then the kids begin to protest. This causes TJ to step in. He tells the crowd that Cyrus is with him and everybody silences. TJ nods to the muffin and Cyrus warily takes it. He then speaks to it as he says that it's going to taste so sweet, and TJ lets out a huff in amusement. He also smirks before he quickly goes back to his cool guy exterior. He then walks off as he tells Buffy that he'll need at least a C+. So I know that this whole muffin exchange is very short, but I still love it. Honestly, I love every single Cyrus and TJ exchange. I feel like almost every story that they got with each other was so good and memorable, and this one in particular is just such a good starting off point. It highlights so many characteristics of their relationship that I love, like how I mentioned earlier, how TJ stands up for him right off the bat, how he talks him through how to do it, and how he protects him and stands up to him in front of everybody. I almost feel like it's applaudable that they were able to highlight so much in such little time. Moving on to episode 11, which is a big one for the ship. Basically, Cyrus has been struggling to film some how-to videos for their school's website, and TJ has been struggling with Buffy's tutoring. So while on a break from filming, Cyrus heads to the park. He's on the swings as he sings, "Legs go up, legs go down. That's how we make the swing go round. Drag your feet, you go slow. The more you drag, the less you go." We then see TJ approaching as he cuts in saying, "Nice song." Cyrus stops swinging to look at him, and TJ asks what he sings on the slide. And so Cyrus sings, "We go down, we say yay. We don't climb up, that's the wrong way." TJ hums, admitting that he didn't expect him to have a song for that. He then notes, "Chocolate chip muffin guy, right?" And Cyrus retorts, "Scary basketball guy." He corrects him, saying, "Actually, it's TJ," and Cyrus introduces himself as well. He then asks if he hangs out here a lot. Cyrus admits only when he's feeling bad about himself, so fairly often. TJ asks if it helps, and Cyrus shares that it helps him. He then encourages him, saying that it looks like he needs it. So TJ joins him on the other swing and lets out a sigh. They then swing together, and TJ begins to smile. He then notes that, wow, this does kind of make him feel better. Cyrus asks what he needs to feel better about. He's the captain of the basketball team. But TJ argues that he doesn't know him. He's got stuff. Cyrus bets that he's got more stuff, and then TJ bets that he can swing higher. Cyrus admits that he's afraid to swing high and that that's part of his stuff, but TJ is too enthralled with swinging to reply. He lets out a whoa and admits that he doesn't know why he ever stopped swinging. He then encourages Cyrus to join him up high, but Cyrus argues that this is as up as he goes. TJ then lets out another whoa and laughs before jumping off the swing. He then goes to push Cyrus, and Cyrus lets out some panicked noises.
Underdog. Whoa. That was exhilarating!
You want another one?
No, thank you.
Too bad.
Whoa!
So this is our first real bonding moment between the two of them, and I just feel like it is so sweet. Once again, we have TJ pushing Cyrus out of his comfort zone, quite literally, I might add, and then he comes to find out that it's actually fun to be a little bit more reckless, if you can call swinging higher on the swings something reckless. And something else that I love about TJ and Cyrus's dynamic that's also highlighted here is that TJ never judges Cyrus for being the way that he is. Sure, he encourages him to color outside of the lines a little bit more, but he never judges him for being the way that he is, which I just love. And that also seems like something that would be a little bit out of character for him, he's supposed to be this mean kid, but it's almost like Cyrus is able to see right through that. And so this allows TJ to actually be himself around him, which is part of what I think makes the two of them so good together. So Buffy then walks by and overhears Cyrus's screams. She then runs over and asks if he's okay. TJ's face then falls and he tells Cyrus that he has to go. Buffy then notices TJ right as Cyrus tries to stop him from leaving. He tells him that he doesn't have to go. Buffy is really cool, but then TJ cuts him off saying no. But he thanks him for reminding him about swinging and says that it helped. Buffy then asks for him to wait and if he got her text. He then reads it and Buffy asks Cyrus for some privacy. So Cyrus tells her that she knows where to find him, and then he says the same to TJ, who tries to smile at this. Now alone, Buffy shares that she thinks he might have a learning disability, dyslexia but with numbers. TJ gets upset with her for before Webb diagnosing his issues and asks her not to tell anybody. In the following episode, TJ asks Buffy to do his math homework. He tries to make it a thing where he just wants her to do it until he has the chance to talk to their teacher so that he can stay on the team, but Buffy refuses. And then, as she's still reeling from this conversation, Cyrus approaches her. He asks if she'd be okay with him inviting TJ to his bar mitzvah. Buffy just kind of brushes him off with a whatever, because as I said, she's still upset about their previous exchange. And then Cyrus notes that that was easy. He then turns and calls after TJ. This time he calls him not so scary basketball guy, and TJ happily greets him by calling him underdog. And I just feel like these two have so many nicknames for each other throughout the show, and I just love it. Cyrus then tells him that he knows that it's last minute, but if he could get an RSVP ASAP, then he thinks that he could get him into his bar mitzvah. He gives him the invite, and TJ says that he's there. Cyrus smiles at this, and TJ asks if Buffy is always so high and mighty. Cyrus says, pretty much. And so TJ asks if he wanted to get her to do something for him, how would he go about doing that? And Cyrus advises him to use her two favorite words. He might not like saying them, but Buffy will love to hear them. We then learn what these two words are as we see TJ and Buffy in the library, and he basically tells her that she's right, among other things. And this eventually leads to her agreeing to do his homework for him. At their next game, Buffy reminds TJ that he promised to pass her the ball, but he still doesn't. She asks why he isn't, and TJ argues that it's because he doesn't need to. She reminds him that they had a deal, but he just says that he'll pass to her in the next game. But she doesn't believe him, rightfully so. She argues that he just says what he has to say to get what he wants, and then he says again that she's right, but more pointedly this time. And then he does pass her the ball, which is good, but then the game is interrupted by Buffy's mom coming home. The following episode is Cyrus's bar mitzvah. However, Cyrus and TJ don't interact once at it. And I just found that a little bit odd considering the fact that he actively went out of his way to invite TJ to it. I feel like that moment was kind of gearing us up for something, and then it didn't end up going anywhere. But he does at one point help Jonah, who is having a panic attack, and so I guess that's good. And then I also did some digging and found out that Joshua Rush, who plays Cyrus, actually commented on this on Reddit. He shared that there was originally an interaction between the two of them at the bar mitzvah, but it wasn't very meaningful in his opinion, and it did end up getting cut for time. Although I will still just like forever wonder what that interaction was. We then don't see TJ again until episode 17, and so that's quite the jump from episode 12, but we are once again at another one of Buffy's basketball games. This time Cyrus is in the crowd with megaphones for everybody. Andy then excitedly says that they can also use them to yell at TJ. Cyrus asks why they would do that, and Andy is caught off guard by this. She says to get him to pass Buffy the ball. Cyrus then notices TJ on the sidelines and notes that he doesn't think that that's going to be an issue. He then goes to talk to him. Jonah asks if they're friends now, but Andy doesn't respond. So Cyrus asks TJ if he's not playing, and TJ snarkily replies that nothing gets past him. Cyrus then tells him that he's not here as his punching bag. He's here to see if he's okay. But then TJ just asks how about you're not here at all, before he walks off. And I feel like this is the first time in which Cyrus has really seen this side of TJ, or at least this is the first time in which that side of him is directed at him and not Buffy, which I find interesting. Clearly, this is a tactic of his that he uses to keep people away, but I really like that it doesn't work on Cyrus as he continues trying to talk to him. It's almost like he's able to see right through it, which I just love. But Buffy is now on fire without TJ to keep her down. Her friends all cheer for her, and TJ glares at this. He then looks to Cyrus and then to Buffy before he leaves the gym. Cyrus then goes after him, and Buffy notices this. Outside, Cyrus finds TJ at a vending machine. He asks if he's eating his feelings and admits that he does that too. TJ then lets out a sigh as he sits down. He then asks Cyrus if he thinks that they'll win without him. Cyrus admits that he doesn't even know who they're playing, and TJ tells him the Raptors. And as a Torontonian, I just have to say that I was like, whoa, they are playing way out of their league. But TJ then says that he should be in that game. Cyrus asks why he isn't, and he shares that he's failing math. They won't let him play basketball because he can't do some stupid equations. He then asks how those two things are even related. And now I'm starting to feel old because I want to explain to him why it's important to put school first. Cyrus suggests that maybe he should get a different tutor, but TJ argues that what he needs is a different brain. He says that his doesn't work. there's a malfunction. He might have this math dyslexia. Cyrus has heard of this before, as he says dyscalculia, I think is how you pronounce it. TJ shares that Buffy is the one who figured it out, and she's been bugging him to talk to their teacher. Cyrus then tells him that it's pretty common and not worth replacing his brain over.
Dude, it's learning disability? I don't want to go around announcing it.
Dude, that's an overused buzzword. There is nothing wrong with you. And your teacher can't fail you for having it.
So I feel like this is great because so far we've really only seen the opposite, with TJ being the one that's helping Cyrus with something. I guess the swings moment was more of like a mutual helping, but I really like seeing Cyrus be there for TJ with this. I think his experience with having both of his parents being therapists really shines through in this moment, but it's also exactly what TJ needed. I love that he felt comfortable enough to share this with him, and just how delicately Cyrus reassures him that there's nothing wrong with him. It is a very sweet moment, but it is not done yet. So this leaves TJ deep in thought as he concludes that Coleman can't fail him. Cyrus then tells him that he could be playing basketball right now. TJ then rolls his eyes as he concludes that Buffy was right all along. At least he'll mean it this time when he tells her it. He then notes that that really is her favorite thing to hear. And then Cyrus admits that he really shouldn't have told him that. She'd kill him if she ever found out. TJ tells him not to worry and that she won't, and that she may have been right, but he's the one who really helped him. So, very sweet. Afterwards, Buffy gets upset with Cyrus for missing her game to help TJ. Cyrus argues that he just looks so sad, lonely, and miserable. He felt like his life had no purpose or meaning. He argues that she had the whole school cheering her name and he had no one. But then Buffy notes except her best friend. Cyrus apologizes and she forgives him, which is nice, and I was definitely thinking during that moment that Cyrus's priorities were being questioned, although I'm glad that they figured out this conflict quite quickly considering what's coming next. So after TJ's talk with Cyrus, he finally goes to their teacher, and then we see him tell Buffy that she needs to go and talk to him too. He kind of told him that she did his homework. He then once again says that she's right, and this is when Buffy finally realizes that someone must have told him to say that to her. And obviously, it's not exactly hard to imagine who that someone was. So later, Buffy tells Cyrus that she's suspended from the basketball team. She then shares with him what she's figured out. He asks to make it up to her, but she just tells him that she can't be friends with him anymore, not if he's friends with TJ. He asks if she's giving him an ultimatum, and she doubles down, saying him or me, and asks for him to decide. She walks off, and Cyrus calls after her saying that he chooses her. She's his best friend, which I feel like was to be expected. I mean, they've been friends for forever, it feels like, and this thing with TJ is still very new, and it really does just show where his loyalties lie. I do think that Cyrus is a fairly loyal person. I know you could argue that he wasn't very loyal when he told TJ what to say to her, but we already saw that earlier in this episode he realized that he was wrong for doing that, and I think the fact that he was so quick to immediately choose her shows that she's the one who means the most to him, which I also think is very true and accurate to Cyrus's character. Like, yes, he messed up, but now he's owning it. Luckily though, this conflict doesn't last long either, as in the following episode, Jonah has another panic attack. This brings the two of them together and they make up. Buffy then comes to learn about the moment that brought TJ and Cyrus together, as he shares that he relates to Jonah, as he talks about his experience shooting that video and how stressed it made him. He explains that he then went down to the swings to calm down, which is where Buffy found him with TJ. Cyrus admits that that was the first time they ever really talked, and Buffy says that he was the last person that she ever thought that he would be friends with. Cyrus agrees that it's weird, but what's even weirder is that he wants to be friends with him. Who knows why? But then Buffy says that she knows why, and she apologizes. Cyrus apologizes too, and she says that he can be friends with whoever he wants to be friends with. And I really think that this conversation was just so important for them to have, and maybe a little bit overdue. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had my fair share of enemies in my life, and if any of my best friends befriended them, that would have definitely hurt. And so I feel like this conversation was very important for them to have, and I'm glad that we saw it happen. We then jump forward to episode 21, and some things did happen in between these episodes. Most notably, Buffy moved, and she did so before Andy and Cyrus could give her the time capsule that they made for her. But the first scene of relevance to us is when TJ finds Andy and Cyrus in the spoon. He asks to sit, and Cyrus says that he thinks that she would be okay with that, but then Andy argues that she's not too sure she's okay with it. He was awful to her, and even though she's gone, she's still there in spirit. TJ then turns to Buffy's time capsule. He admits that he knows that he should have told her this in person, but he was a jerk. Big time. And he's sorry. She didn't deserve that. And then Andy invites him to sit with them. He asks what they were talking about, and Cyrus rambles about the weather, current events, price of hot lunch. TJ then notes that they let him sit down, but they won't even talk to him. Cyrus apologizes, but admits that it's private and that he's having a physical issue. TJ says, "Oh," and then Cyrus panics, telling him to stop imagining horrible things. He then admits that he can't do a somersault. Actually, there's a whole list of things that he can't do. TJ laughs, but Andy tells him that he's serious. There is a list, and then Cyrus texts it to him. TJ then says, "Listen, underdog, if you want to do a somersault, I can help you with that." But then they're interrupted by Jonah coming in. Later, TJ says that he has to go to work and asks Cyrus if he wants to come with him, which he eagerly agrees to. We then see TJ and Cyrus outside. Cyrus learns that he works at a gym and tells him that he hates gyms. TJ argues that he'll like this one. This is where he's going to learn to do a somersault. Cyrus doesn't believe him, arguing that he doesn't know what it's like to be a kugel of a man. But nonetheless, TJ ushers him inside. We then see the two of them inside this like children's gym or like a gymnastic center for kids kind of situation, where TJ puts his arm around him. And then we have a little montage with Cyrus doing the activities and TJ encouraging him. In the end, he is able to do a somersault and the two of them celebrate, even going as far as giving one another a chest bump. And then in the following episode, this may not seem that relevant, but it's in this one where Cyrus tells Buffy that his crush on Jonah is gone, which is a whole other story, but back in season 1, it was revealed that Cyrus liked Jonah. And that was kind of the way in which the audience found out that Cyrus was gay, or I guess is gay. It's not a past tense thing. I personally don't think that it's a coincidence that his crush on Jonah has gone away around the time in which he's gotten closer with TJ. But there is definitely room for interpretation on this one. You could just argue that they wanted to move things along with him and TJ and they didn't want him like still crushing on Jonah because that would ruin things. But my interpretation is definitely the fact that those feelings went away now that he has TJ. But all of this brings us to the last episode of the second season, in which I would argue one of the most memorable Tyrus moments occurs. So we begin with Cyrus cheering on Buffy as she shoots some hoops outside. Cyrus then learns that Buffy has decided not to rejoin the basketball team. He asks if it's because of TJ, and that she thinks that he's not going to pass her the ball, but he will. He's a completely different person now. He even got a C on a math test. Buffy is surprised to learn this, and Cyrus tells her that she should have seen him. It was so cute, he was running around and showing everybody, like a puppy who passed a math test. But Buffy argues that he's still a puppy that she doesn't want to play with. And so Cyrus brings Buffy into the gym and then makes up an excuse to leave. She's then met with TJ. He tells her that he heard that she's not coming back, and she asks why he cares, and he says because she's good. They then go back and forth a little bit before Cyrus comes over with her gym clothes. He then asks if they're going to play some one-on-one or something, and then TJ whispers to him that they weren't there yet. Buffy agrees to the challenge, and as she's walking off, Cyrus tells TJ that this is why he wanted to rehearse. And just like this whole idea of Cyrus and TJ coming together to like create this scheme to get Buffy back on the team is just so adorable to me, especially the idea of Cyrus like wanting to roleplay the situation and TJ just like not being down for that. Moving on to their one-on-one game, TJ tells Cyrus, make it, take it, first to 7, win by 2. Cyrus then admits that he was going to keep score, but he's lost him already. And then Buffy wins their game and goes on to wake up Cyrus from his nap. He runs to her and they hug, causing TJ to roll his eyes at this. Cyrus then concludes that his plan worked. He proved that her and TJ can play basketball together, but Buffy still says that she's not going to rejoin the team. However, this is because she just got permission to start a girls' team, and so I guess all of this was kind of irrelevant and it would have been solved with a simple conversation instead. Afterwards, Cyrus says that the good part about all of this is that they can all be friends now. TJ says that he can, but then Buffy argues that that's because she's never done anything horrible to him, like he has to her. TJ calls this a fair point, and she says that she could forgive him, she already has. She just doesn't know if they could ever be friends. And so Cyrus asks what if he apologized. Buffy says that it would have to be the best apology ever, and so Cyrus tells him to give it a shot. TJ then lets out a breath before he steps in front of them. Cyrus gives him a nod of encouragement, and TJ begins to rap. I don't want to read this. I just feel like it's a little bit cringy. Okay. He says, if you're looking for a captain, her name's Buffy Driscoll. Gonna start a girls' team and make that ish official. Steal your balls so fast that you'll want to bring police in. Tell him that it got taken like she's Liam Neeson. Am I butchering this? Probably. The slickest, sickest, quickest, the most wicked in the world used to hate her instigator told her good job for a girl. I didn't want to hear it, but she taught me all the same. If you want to change the world, then you gotta change the game. All right. And I feel like at the time, this was cringy, and looking back, it is still a little bit cringy, but it's also impressive. I don't know if this was something that he had rehearsed or what, but I personally like to think that he came up with all of this on the spot, which I just think makes the whole thing even better. And I kind of wish that this rapping side was one that we got to see more of from TJ. Like, is this an interest that he has or what? Because I definitely couldn't come up with something like this on the spot. But then at the same time, if seeing more of this side of him meant that we would have also gotten more rap, then I'm glad that that didn't happen, because I definitely think that one was enough. So Cyrus is in awe of this. He then asks Buffy if that was the best apology ever. And Buffy lets out a breath of a laugh before she admits that maybe it was. TJ asks if they're good, and Buffy agrees that they are. So he says that he'll see her around and then turns to leave. Buffy then admits that she is so confused right now. And Cyrus notes, "You think you're confused? Take a walk inside of my head." And then as he's walking off, we see TJ turn to look back. Cyrus then notes, "You think you know someone," and Buffy adds, "until you find out that you don't." So the iconic Andy Mack look back is something that I've commented on in numerous videos throughout the years. I feel like ever since I watched the show for the first time, I have just constantly been applying this to every other piece of media that I've consumed, and I am just like so honored that I'm finally able to talk about it in a love story for the show that it originated in. So basically, if you're not familiar, this is a callback to a moment in the first season finale where Amber tells Jonah that if he wants to know if Andy likes him, watch and see if she turns back to look at him. If she does, it means that she likes him and not just as a friend. Jonah leaves, and then Andy looks back, which isn't really that surprising. We all knew that she liked him. But then the real twist is that so does Cyrus. So this was like our big reveal that Cyrus also had a crush on Jonah, which, as I said previously, he is now over. And I remember at the time when this episode aired, the big question was as to if TJ is looking back at Cyrus or if he is looking back at Buffy. Now, obviously, you're watching a TJ and Cyrus love story video, and so I think that answer is quite obvious, but this did still create some tension, I feel like, between the fandom at the time. But looking back now, I do feel like it is pretty obvious that he's looking at Cyrus. I mean, just look in the direction in which his eyes are looking. But I absolutely love that this is our reveal that he's starting to have feelings for him, as it's the same way that we found out about Cyrus's feelings for Jonah. And the fact that both of these events happen in season finales, I feel like is just perfect as well. But with that, it is time for our third and unfortunately final season of the series. And our Tyrus story continues in episode 4. We basically pick up right where we left off, as we get right into the girls' team that Buffy is starting. TJ and Cyrus ask if she's nervous about starting a girls' team. Buffy says that she isn't, but then Cyrus emphasizes that the entire history of their school and her future will depend on what's on the other side of that door. TJ asks if she thinks anyone showed up. What if she walks through that door and nobody's there? Finally, Buffy says that she feels like they're deliberately trying to make her nervous, but it's not going to work. Cyrus tells TJ that she told him that she's a rock, and now he owes him a muffin of his choice. But then when they enter the gym, Buffy admits that now she's nervous. This causes TJ to smirk and request a blueberry macadamia muffin from Cyrus. He argues that that muffin doesn't even exist, and so TJ retorts that he has his work cut out for him. The boys then go on to watch the tryouts, which don't exactly go well. Buffy calls them terrible and thinks that nobody's going to want to coach them. But then TJ argues that they're not terrible, they're just not her. Cyrus agrees that it's tryouts, they're out and they're trying, which is all she can expect. TJ adds that they just need some encouragement, some positive reinforcement. But then the next day we learn that nobody signed up for round 2 of tryouts. This then leads Buffy to the idea of getting them some cool new uniforms to help them look and feel more like a team. And TJ actually decides to help her out with this, which is really sweet. We then move forward to episode 6, which is a bit of a heavy one, but definitely memorable. So I'm excited to get into it. We start off with TJ asking Cyrus what he's doing on Saturday.
Well, my popular kids club meetings are on Fridays. So, yeah, I'm free on Saturday.
Wanna hang out?
With you?
And my friends.
Do they even know I exist?
Yeah, they know. I talk about you.
Behind my back?
Well, you're not there, so yeah. Are you mad?
Are you kidding? I'm flattered. I didn't think anybody talked about me behind my back.
He asks if he's in, and Cyrus asks what the plan is. TJ says nothing major and that they're just going to hang out. Cyrus says that he's definitely down for some hanging, or up for some hanging. Doesn't matter the direction, he'll hang. TJ then chuckles at this before he leaves. After he's gone, Cyrus excitedly calls his mom to tell her the good news, and that is that people are talking about him behind his back. So very funny and very Cyrus. And of course, we can't just not talk about the fact that TJ just admitted that he talks about him with his friends. I know that we kind of already know at this point that TJ does like him because of the confirmation from the end of the last season, but I feel like this is just even further confirmation. Moving on to Saturday, we see a bunch of kids out dirt biking when Cyrus pulls up on his regular bike. He greets TJ and TJ is happy to see that he made it. He then introduces him to his friends Lester and Reed. Cyrus says that he didn't tell him that there would be dirt bikes, and TJ asks if he's ever been on one. Cyrus shares that as a matter of fact, Andy has one. He hid it in his garage once and he rolled it through the school's parking lot, so no. TJ says that they're really fun and then gives him his helmet, asking that he give it a shot, but Cyrus says no thanks. He has a fear of basically everything that's going on here. Reed then lets out a laugh and admits that TJ was right. He is funny. Cyrus admits that he doesn't know about that, but then Reed encourages him to say something else funny. Cyrus admits that his humor is more observational and character driven. Reed laughs and Cyrus jokes, "Hot crowd." He then asks if he's going to ride, but again, Cyrus says no thanks. Reed then offers that he use his bike if he doesn't have one, but Cyrus tells him that it's okay. He has a complicated relationship with things on wheels. Reed gets that it's not really his thing, but admits that it could be, and that you never know unless you try. Cyrus then nervously looks to TJ, who smiles and wiggles his eyebrows at him. And I know that dirt biking isn't necessarily that dangerous, and they are wearing helmets, which is good, but the just pure pressure energy of this moment is not my favorite. Usually I like whenever TJ is able to push Cyrus out of his comfort zone, but when it's Reed that is the one that's doing it, it just makes me feel icky, especially on top of what goes on to happen after this. Nonetheless, we then see Cyrus get on the bike. TJ is showing him the ropes, where the clutch is, the shifter, and all that jazz. Eventually, Cyrus starts the bike and notes that's why it's called a kickstart. TJ tells him not bad, not bad. He then hands him a helmet and compliments him after he puts it on. They fist bump and TJ hits his helmet before Cyrus gets ready to ride. We then see them all encouraging Cyrus to go. Cyrus then nervously starts driving, very unsteadily and wobbly, and TJ encourages him, whereas Reed laughs at him. Thankfully though, TJ tells him to stop, because he's honestly Cyrus's #1 defender and has been since day one. Cyrus then tries to go up a hill but ends up going backwards. TJ encourages him to do it again and says that he's got this. He then tries again, but no dice. This time both boys trying to encourage him to keep going. He then gets a better start and is able to make it over the hill, and everybody cheers. They applaud as he comes over to them and TJ gives him a high five. He then tells him that he thinks that he got a little bit of air on that one, and Cyrus admits that he forgot which one was the brake. Reed then points out that Cyrus lost his shoe, and Cyrus admits that that's very on brand for him, which is a callback to a previous episode where he also lost his shoe. TJ then tells him to check it out. He got a great shot of him as he shows him a photo he took on his phone. Cyrus beams, saying that he looks rugged before he points out his missing shoe. So despite some of the peer pressure-ness of his interaction with Reed, I do like most of this. A little bit of dirt biking at a safe speed with helmets on sounds okay to me. I loved seeing Cyrus conquering another fear and TJ encouraging him. I feel like the best ships are the ones where you can tell that each person makes the other person better. And I'm not saying that Cyrus wasn't fine before, but I do think that it is important to be able to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while. I mean, there's a reason why I've brought that up numerous times so far in this video. And obviously I do think that Cyrus has had the same effect on TJ. I mean, just look at how far he's come in comparison to when we first saw him. But unfortunately, this is when things take a turn. Later, Cyrus sees the guys setting up some watermelon. He asks if they're having some kind of eating contest or something, but Reed just tells him that he cracks him up. They're not going to eat the watermelons, they're going to shoot them. Cyrus asks with what, and then Reed opens up his bag to show him that he brought got a gun. Cyrus asks if it's real, and Reed says, of course, it's his dad's. He asks if he knows that he has it, but then Reed just tells him to chill. Cyrus then looks to TJ, who looks unhappy with this entire situation. Reed then asks if he wants to hold it, and Cyrus says that he definitely does not. Like I said, I do think that it is important to be able to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while, but definitely not when it comes to playing with your parents' guns. So I definitely think that Cyrus's reaction here was very valid and the right one to have. So he then goes over to TJ and asks if he knows what's in that bag. TJ says that he does, and so Cyrus tells him that he's going to go. He nods, and Cyrus adds that he thinks that he should go too. But TJ just looks off and doesn't respond. So Cyrus leaves while shaking his head, and TJ looks back at him. We then see Cyrus and Andy heading into the principal's office. Andy reassures him that he's doing the right thing. Cyrus agrees and admits that that's what his parents said, but he thinks that TJ would disagree. He then tells Andy that he's going to hate him. But Andy argues that he could be saving his life and tells him to think about it that way. Principal Metcalf then comes out of his office, and Cyrus tells him that he needs to talk to him about something. Metcalf admits that he needs to talk to him too, as he invites him in. When Cyrus heads inside, he sees a police officer waiting there for him. And this is when we come to find out that Metcalf already knows about the gun. And this is our cliffhanger of the episode. So, like I said, definitely a heavy topic, but at the same time, so important. And I'm getting a little bit off track in regards to like our love story here, but I just wanted to highlight how important I feel like this episode was, because for Disney Channel to cover an issue like this when this show came out, like it's just another reason as to why Andy Mack was so revolutionary and so important at the time that it was airing. I mean, it reminds me of moments in the earlier days when we got really good episodes from like Lizzie McGuire or Sweet Life about like bra shopping or anorexia, like important things that kids should be aware of, but they handle them in such a way that it's still digestible for them as well. And so yes, I just wanted to commend Andy Mack for even having this episode in general. In the following episode, Cyrus gets a text and Andy asks if it's TJ again. Buffy then reminds him that he knows what to do, swipe and delete. Cyrus instead says, here's the thing, and they both scold him for this, but he argues that he really wants to talk. Shouldn't he at least hear him out? Buffy argues that there's nothing that he can say, and Andy agrees, emphasizing that he hangs out with people who play with their parents' guns. Buffy says that they don't want anything to happen to him. Cyrus argues that TJ obviously feels bad because he keeps calling, but Buffy just tells him to block him. So Cyrus does this and then asks if they're satisfied. I can really see where both parties are coming from with this situation. The girls want to protect Cyrus, and obviously they don't know TJ like he does, and so it's easier for them to just write him off. But Cyrus has yet to actually talk to TJ about this. I know that he tried during the situation, but they have yet to like touch base afterwards. And I personally, like if I was one of Cyrus's friends, I would have encouraged him to meet up and talk with him at least once before making his decision. But I'm also not like 15. However, I do also have to comment on the fact that I do like the like forbidden lovers vibe that this conflict is bringing in. At lunch, Cyrus sees TJ very sadly eating alone. He pauses and notices that he's not sitting with his friends, and he tries to change the subject, but then TJ catches Cyrus's eye. He then decides that he's just going to do a quick walk by to make sure that he's okay. But then his friends hold him back from doing this and direct him in the opposite direction. Cyrus notes that he's feeling very managed right now, and I can definitely see why. After school, TJ finds Cyrus on the swings. He asks if the one beside him is taken, and instead of answering, Cyrus gets up and asks how he knew that he would be there. TJ then admits that he's been stopping by to see if he can catch him there without his bodyguards. And just the thought of TJ coming to this park after school every day to try and find Cyrus is just everything to me. It's so sad, but it's also just so adorable at the same time. Cyrus admits that he's not supposed to talk to him and says that he should go, but TJ tells him to stay. He'll go. But then he asks if he can at least say sorry first. Cyrus shrugs and TJ takes that as a yes. He then confesses that he didn't know that Reed would bring a gun. He wouldn't have gone, and he definitely wouldn't have brought him. And now he hates him. He then scoffs before saying classic TJ. Anything good and he's gotta ruin it, and it just breaks my heart that he feels this way. TJ then goes to leave, but Cyrus calls after him. He then stops and turns back as Cyrus reminds him that he said that he was going to apologize. TJ argues that he just did, but Cyrus says, actually, you didn't. TJ doubles down and says, yes, I did. I said that I was. He then pauses and admits that he's right. And then he says sorry for not saying sorry. He goes to leave, but Cyrus stops him again. He notes, so you've apologized for not apologizing, but you still haven't apologized.
You can be a little annoying, you know that?
Well, you can be oblivious.
Well, you can be very judgy.
Well, you can be intimidating.
You know what else you are?
What?
The only person I can talk to like this.
Cyrus smiles and TJ asks again if it's okay if he stays. He shrugs, and so the two of them sit back down on the swings. So I feel like this was a real pivotal moment for me as a viewer watching their story unfold, because don't get me wrong, I've been all for them since the very beginning, but this was kind of the first time where I watched a scene between the two of them and felt actual romantic undertones. How they both step forward to counter what the other person is saying, and then TJ confessing that he's the only one that he can talk to like this, just chills, literal chills. Obviously, we did have the look back moment at the end of the second season, but like I said, at the time there was still like a bit of an argument as to who he was looking back at. And so I feel like when we made it to this moment, it was just like, oh my god, they're actually going there. Like, you have to remember, at the time when this show was airing, we had never had a main character be given a gay storyline before. And so most of like watching the show in real time was just wondering if they were actually going to go there. Obviously, me and a whole lot of other people wanted them to, but there was still that like piece of doubt in my mind where it was like, but will they? And so this moment is so funny because in hindsight, I feel like it's so obvious that they are going to go there, but I still like had a hard time believing it back in the day. So we then see TJ and Cyrus sitting by a pond. Cyrus asks if he knows what happened to Reed, and TJ shares that he has to do 100 hours of community service, and the police are investigating his dad for negligent storage of a firearm. Cyrus woes before saying that he just wants him to know that it wasn't him who told the police about the gun. He would have, but they already knew. And then TJ confesses that, yeah, he told them. Cyrus is shocked and TJ says, surprise, I did the right thing. And it's funny that Cyrus is so surprised because I feel like as a viewer, I'm like, yeah, obviously. After we found out that the principal already knew, I feel like the logical explanation was that TJ told them. I mean, he was really the only other person in that situation that knew that could have told, which is why Andy and Buffy's reaction is even more annoying in hindsight, and why the miscommunication trope is like the least enjoyable thing ever, because we could have like resolved all of this in the beginning of the episode instead. But then I guess we would have gotten the swings moment, which was good as well, so you take what you can get. Moving on to episode 8, where we have an interesting plot line. Basically, Cyrus and Jonah are playing ping pong in his basement when in comes TJ. Jonah's face falls as TJ greets Cyrus. He then cracks a joke asking if this is real or if Jonah is letting him win. Cyrus retorts that, oh, it's real, and tries to get Jonah to tell him, but Jonah just deadpans as he asks if he wants to play. TJ says that he'll take winner, but instead Jonah just gives him his paddle. He says that he just remembered that he was supposed to be somewhere. Cyrus asks where, and Jonah goes, haircut. Cyrus asks if he's upset that he's winning. Jonah says of course not, but TJ begins to tease him, agreeing that he thinks he is upset. Jonah's face falls and TJ comments on this. He's then quick to say, actually it's because you're here if you want to know. Cyrus then chimes in to explain that they worked out that thing that happened with TJ and his friends, but Jonah says that it's got nothing to do with that. Cyrus asks what it is then, but Jonah just leaves as he tells him to ask TJ. So Cyrus does, asking TJ what is it, what did he do, but TJ has no idea. Later we see Cyrus and Jonah at the record store. Jonah asks why he didn't tell him that TJ was coming, and Cyrus admits that he didn't think he had to. He likes everyone and everyone likes him. He says that TJ is between friends right now, but then Jonah says that he can't help him. He'll never be friends with that guy. It's a long story that's kind of embarrassing. Cyrus encourages him, and so then Jonah explains that it all goes back to Little League. We then have a flashback to a little Jonah and a little TJ as he tells a story about wanting the number 21 on his jersey, but he never got to wear that jersey because TJ stole it. He then confronted TJ, but TJ argued that it was his jersey. Jonah said that it wasn't and told him to ask the coach. TJ refused, and so then Jonah said that he would. TJ then teased him by asking, is the coach your dad? And it just so happened that the coach was his dad. He then mocked him, calling him a widow baby who has to one to get his daddy. TJ then continued instigating him, and so Jonah shoved him, causing the two of them to get into a fight. The coach then split them up and asked Jonah to wear another jersey. So he did, but every game he had to see TJ wearing his number. He then reveals that he never went back after that, or tried any other sport because he never wanted to be on a team with TJ and his friends. So this grudge clearly goes way back. which is interesting because we earlier saw TJ being around Jonah without a problem. The somersault episode is one that comes to mind, how he just joined them at the spoon without a second thought. But I can imagine that this whole backstory probably wasn't intended to be a thing until now. Nonetheless, Cyrus goes on to wonder why TJ did that. Jonah just thinks that it's because he's mean and that he's always been mean. But Cyrus argues that that's just his face and that he's really not so mean anymore. Jonah concludes that he's ready to let this go, but Cyrus admits that he's not too sure he is. So then we cut to the boys telling TJ what Jonah remembered. TJ calls this story crazy and argues that it never happened. Jonah backs off, saying that it doesn't matter and that they don't need to do this. But TJ doesn't want him going around his whole life thinking that he stole his Little League jersey. Jonah argues, but he did, and then TJ retorts that he didn't. Cyrus then interjects to settle this debate once and for all with a photo of their team. He then shows them the photo, and at the same time they both say, "I told you." Jonah says that it's 21, and then TJ looks to Cyrus, who confirms that it is 21. TJ then lets out an "oh no" before he admits that this is embarrassing. He then tells Jonah that when he looks at that photo, he sees a 12. Jonah notes that it's clearly 21, but TJ says, "To you, to most people." He then shares that he has a learning disability. It's like dyslexia, but with numbers. And he didn't know that he had it back then. Jonah apologizes, but TJ admits that he owes him an apology. Jonah says that he owes him one too for holding this stupid grudge for so long. He never even thanked him for helping him at Cyrus's bar mitzvah. TJ concludes that everybody has something that they have to deal with, and Cyrus jokes that for him, it's his fear of flamingos. So that wraps up our very memorable and very necessary plotline from this episode. I hope you can pick up on my sarcasm here. I personally feel like the beginning of this episode is fun if you imagine it as being like an AU. Like, imagine that Jonah actually did reciprocate Cyrus's feelings, he just didn't realize it until later. And so if that was the reality, then having TJ come over would upset him, but for a completely different reason. And honestly, when I rewatched the show kind of recently with my fiance, that's what I thought was happening at first, and then I remembered all of this happening instead. And honestly, was a little bit disappointed. I personally feel like that AU would be much more interesting. But as far as the direction that this episode actually did end up going in, I do think that it was entertaining. I like whenever they're able to further build the world in regards to like the past that these characters might have with one another, but just like in regards to the story overall, it's not one of my personal favorites. In episode 11, we have a Shiva for Cyrus's bubby that passed, and this leads to some reflection on Cyrus's part. He tells Andy and Buffy that he wishes that he told his bubby he was gay when he had the chance to. Andy comforts him by saying that it's his choice who he tells and when. He then decides that he wants to tell Jonah and then goes to do so right away. So later we see Cyrus tell Jonah that he's gay while he's giving him the rundown of some Jewish cuisine. And then at the end of the episode, TJ shows up with a challah. Cyrus gets up and notes that he came, and TJ says, "Of course I came." They smile at one another and TJ adds, "And I brought a challah." Cyrus then jokes that he shouldn't have, which is a weird word to do the ha with, but I tried. And just as things seem to be on the up and up again, in episode 13, TJ meets Kira. Yay! So Kira is a basketball player that was really good, but Buffy kicked her off the team for being awful and just like not a team player. So during TJ and Kira's meeting, Cyrus comes over. They do a very bro-y hello, and then TJ introduces them. She notes that he's Buffy's friend, and then Cyrus asks TJ if he's ready. As they walk off, Cyrus notes that she's nice, if the word nice had a completely different meaning. He asks if the two of them are hanging out now, but TJ brushes this off, saying basketball, you know. And I just wanted to say that I completely understand the intention with this moment, but I do kind of feel like it falls a little bit short just based off of the fact that we literally just saw them meet. So for Cyrus to jump to, "Are you guys hanging out now?" and for TJ to just brush it off as being a basketball thing, I feel like is kind of odd, when he also could have just as easily brushed it off by saying that he just met her. But I do understand that we are limited for time here. TJ then excitedly asks Cyrus what he's doing for costume day. Cyrus notes that he doesn't strike him as a costume day guy, but TJ argues that he has layers.
Anyway, I had this idea.
Listening?
Okay, so one person dresses up in board shorts, sunglasses, and flip-flops, and the other dresses up like a salt shaker. Oh, sea salt! That would have been good, but no.
I don't know. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Somersault! Bam! Bam!
TJ admits that he thought that it would be funny, and Cyrus agrees that it is. He then calls Summer, or unless he wants to be Summer. TJ says that he already has the board shorts and sunglasses, two things that I feel like probably every boy has. But nonetheless, Cyrus calls Salt. He then notes that he has to call Andy as she's been planning a group Mount Rushmore costume that he now has to bail on. Later, Cyrus tells Buffy that he's out of their group costume because TJ had a great idea. He tells her somersault and that it's their thing. And I am just so on board with all of this because how adorable is that? But unfortunately, this is where things go south. So Kira then finds TJ in the park and says that she's been looking for him. She then sits down and tells him that she has a great idea for costume day. It's basketball related, but it needs 2 people. She asks if he's in, but he tells her that he already has a costume. She asks what it is, and he tells her that him and Cyrus are doing somersault. It's an inside joke. She sarcastically says that everybody loves an inside joke that they don't understand. She then pushes, saying that her costume idea is really cool, but he says, nah, I'm set. She then concludes that he'd rather do a costume with Cyrus than with her, and I'm like, yep, sounds pretty straightforward to me, girl. I'm not too sure what you're confused about. Still, she just tells him to have fun with that and then leaves. And listen, I understand the connotation of all of this. It's Kira judging him for the connection that he has with Cyrus and maybe also like feeding into this possible insecurity that he has in regards to his sexuality. It's very nuanced, but I feel like it's there. Quite cleverly, I might add. But it's still just like a little bit weird for me because they literally just met in this episode. But also, I guess kids maybe do move fast. I don't know. Moving on to costume day, TJ runs up to Salt Shaker Cyrus and he asks where his costume is. He notes that without him, this is embarrassingly straightforward. TJ then admits that he was going to call him, but then they're interrupted by Kira. She tells him to come on, let's see it. And then they both unzip their sweaters to show off their very lame and low effort, in my opinion, double dribble costumes. And I put air quotes around costumes because writing a word on a shirt I feel like should not count as a costume. Kira asks if he gets it and Cyrus admits no, actually. Kira then encourages TJ to come show the guys on his team. He then apologizes to Cyrus and says that it was a last-minute decision and that he should have called. He then apologizes again before he leaves. Later, Buffy and Andy find a very sad Cyrus outside. He joins back in on their Mount Rushmore costume, albeit very depressed. So all of this sucks, obviously, and I remember watching this episode for the first time like it was yesterday. I felt so bad for Cyrus, but at the same time, I can still see why TJ did it, just like for all the reasons that I listed earlier. I feel like they are just both so young, and dealing with your sexuality at that age is so hard, and it just makes me sad and also mad at Kira. I really don't like that girl, and I really don't think that she needed to insert herself into this situation. And I feel kind of weird like complaining about this child, but at the same time, she's not real, so who cares? Moving on to episode 15, where all of this Kira stuff continues. Unfortunately, but we start off with Buffy and Cyrus watching Kira and TJ play basketball from afar. Buffy asks Cyrus if they're together now, but he admits that he doesn't know and that he hasn't been hanging out much with TJ lately. She asks if it's because of that, and Cyrus reveals that they've been pretty much attached at the hip. We then see her jump on TJ's back, and Cyrus adds, and his back. He watches them and notes that they look happy. Buffy argues that it won't last and that Kira's not a nice person. It took her only a day to figure that out. Since he's a guy, it'll take longer. And I do find this kind of interesting because not that long ago you could argue that TJ wasn't a nice person. And it's kind of unfortunate that this plotline happened so close to the end of the series, because I do think that if we did get another season, then we could have delved deeper into Kira and she could have gotten a proper redemption arc and like character development just like TJ did, but unfortunately that's not the case. Later, TJ finds Cyrus and he asks if he's been avoiding him. Cyrus says never, but TJ admits that it kind of feels like it. This causes Cyrus to point out that he's been otherwise occupied. He looks at him confused, and so Cyrus tells him that he's been spending a lot of time with Kira. TJ argues not a lot, some, but then Cyrus retorts the bulk of. He scoffs and says that they're just hanging out. Cyrus notes that they're clearly hitting it off, which is great. He's happy for him. TJ says that he's making it sound like they're a couple, which they're not. They mostly just talk about basketball. Cyrus asks, and then you give her a piggyback ride? He argues that she bet that he couldn't carry her. That was all. Cyrus notes that she seems fun, and TJ says that she is, and that he should hang out with them. But Cyrus isn't too sure how much Kira would want that. She knows that he's Buffy's best friend after all. And then Kira interrupts. She sing-songingly greets them, but then deadpans and says, "Hi, Cyrus." TJ says that he was just telling Cyrus that he should hang out with them, and Kira very fakely says that he should. TJ notes C, she agrees. Cyrus then thanks them for the offer, but says that he's gotta go. TJ asks where, and Cyrus says, you know, people to go, places to see. And I didn't mess that up on purpose, I did mess that up on purpose because that's literally what he says. Sadly, TJ asks some other time then, and Cyrus says definitely. TJ then watches him go to the point where Kira feels the need to say, hello, I'm over here. Once again, this just makes me sad. Mainly for TJ, even though I know that Cyrus is also suffering because of all of this. But just that last moment where we have TJ longingly looking after him, like, obviously this entire plotline is very nuanced, but my interpretation in regards to all of this is that TJ is feeling as though he can't have what he wants. What he wants is to be with Cyrus, but he feels like what he needs or what he's supposed to want is to be with Kira. And I don't even know if that's an active thing that's going on in his brain or if he's just acting subconsciously, but that last moment where he longingly looks at Cyrus is just so telling and so heartbreaking. Because once again, he's just a kid, you know, and I really wish that things weren't the way that they were. I wish that he didn't feel as though choosing Kira was the right option or the easier option, but in the reality that we live in, it is, and it's just so sad, but also kind of amazing that Disney was able to showcase this so well, while still keeping it kind of nuanced. So we then have this whole other plot line that's going on in this episode, where Andy and her friends host a free clothing sale for some new clothing that they found discarded in a dumpster. And that is just like a whole other thing that we're not even going to tackle. But during one of their sales, Cyrus asks Buffy what he thinks of this shirt. She says that she likes it and asks if it's for him, but he says, actually, I was thinking for TJ. He then asks that she hold it up for him so that he can take a picture and see if he wants it. She does and notes that it'll look good with his eyes, and Cyrus excitedly agrees that it will. He then sends the photo and hopes that he likes it. Buffy agrees that he's gonna like it and then asks why he doesn't just give it to him. Cyrus admits that he thought about that, but he's not too sure that he would want that. She asks a free shirt, but he clarifies me giving him a free shirt. She argues that there's a great way to find out. Give him the shirt. She laughs and says maybe it'll mean something to him, maybe it won't. Either way, it's a nice thing to do. Cyrus then gets a text from TJ, which is a thumbs up on the shirt. He tells him that he should come by the sale and says that it's amazing, before he panics and asks Buffy if that was too braggy. But she argues that it wasn't braggy enough. TJ then texts back that he's at the park, and so he asks Buffy what he thinks that means. She suggests that he wants him to meet him, and he asks, you think? And she argues why else would he tell him where he is? And so Cyrus asks if he should bring the shirt. He then goes back and forth as to whether or not he should bring it, but he ultimately decides to bring the shirt. And I really enjoyed this conversation. It really brought me back to when I was dating and you're like texting with someone and you and your friends are trying to dissect what the person means by their messages. It was just so like dating coded, and I found it to be very sweet. Meanwhile, at the park, Kira asks TJ who he's texting. He says nobody and apologizes. He then suggests that they go feed the ducks, but Kira says that she wants to go on the swings first. TJ argues that she wanted to feed the ducks, but she retorts that she's allowed to change her mind. She then encourages him as she runs over to the swings. Still resisting, TJ says that he's not 5, but Kira just says that it's been so long that he's forgotten how fun it is. She then tries to encourage him with a competition as she wonders if he could get this high. And I'm just now realizing that this seemed to be a common tactic for Kira to get TJ to do what she wants. First it was the piggyback ride, and now it's the swings. And obviously it works here as well, as he scoffs before saying that he could get way higher. He then looks around in thought before joining her on the swings. And of course the two of them begin bantering right as Cyrus comes over. He sees them and then turns around and leans on a nearby tree. He then lets out a breath before leaving. We then get a very sad shot of Cyrus walking off and looking back as he goes. So it's funny because I feel like in the beginning of this episode I felt bad for TJ, but then now I just feel bad for Cyrus. This is just so sad and it makes me so mad, like not at anyone in particular, I guess maybe other than Kira, but more so I'm just mad and sad at the entire situation, especially because I believe that this is our first look back moment from Cyrus, and so now we actually have confirmation that Cyrus does feel the same way about TJ, but to get it in this form just like breaks my heart. I just wish that these two could just be happily together and in love, but unfortunately we do have to wait a little bit before we can get there. So back at the sale, Buffy asks what happened, and Cyrus tells her that he was with Kira. He says that they're good together, and again, Buffy promises that it won't last. So as sucky and depressing as this whole storyline is, luckily the next episode that we have to talk about, I feel like is the complete opposite. Next we have a very iconic and a very Tyrus episode, at least in my opinion, opinion, and so it's time to talk about episode 18. So TJ finds Buffy struggling to get to class on her crutches, as obviously in between episodes, Buffy got injured. So he steals a nearby golf cart and offers her a ride. Later, Buffy recounts these events to her friends. She says that it was so nice of him. TJ used to be the worst, and now he's the best. Cyrus then asks who was perceptive enough to see the good in him first, and Buffy tells him not to pull a muscle trying to pat himself on the back. Next we see Cyrus finds TJ upset on the bleachers and asks what's wrong, and TJ shares that he got a summons to appear in student court tomorrow. Cyrus asks if it's because he took Mr. Bag's golf cart, and TJ says that it's a long walk to the PE field and apparently he really relies on those cup holders. Cyrus argues that he only did it to help Buffy and that he was being a nice guy, and TJ scoffs, saying a nice guy who might get suspended or even kicked off the basketball team. And then this leads Cyrus to decide to be his lawyer. TJ argues that it's not that type of court and that they don't have lawyers, but Cyrus just says that they do now. He then goes to continue, but Cyrus cuts him off as he has to go pick out his suit. He then gets up, leaving TJ there perplexed. Moving on to student council, Cyrus runs in yelling for them to wait, all while dragging something behind him. TJ asks what all of that is, and Cyrus calls it evidence. But then he whispers to him that they're actually old phone books. It's an intimidation tactic and he learned it on TV. He tells him that he's not letting him get kicked off the basketball team without a fight, and then he introduces himself as the lead counsel of defense. The head of student court, Gus, is surprised to learn that TJ has retained counsel and calls this highly unusual. He then announces that a claim has been filed against him for grand theft golf cart, and Cyrus coughs, calling it hearsay. TJ is then asked to share his side of the story, and so he says that he saw Buffy limping across the field and wanted to help her. Cyrus then gets up and adds a testament to his character. TJ continues, saying that he saw Mr. Bag's golf cart, and Cyrus notes unclearly marked, and he figured he wouldn't miss it for 10 minutes. Cyrus then adds only 7.5 according to key witnesses, so he borrowed it to get Buffy to class on time. And of course, Cyrus adds in accordance to their school's overly strict attendance policy, which he thinks they can all agree is a crime in and of itself. Student court says that they have everything that they need. They'll go think about this and get back, but then Cyrus clears his throat asking for them to hang on. He would like to call a witness to the stand. He then calls himself to the stand and TJ lets out an oh no. Cyrus then dramatically asks himself where he was at the time of the incident. Cyrus says that he wasn't there, but he knows that TJ only did it to be a good friend. Back in his lawyer persona, he notes that he's a witness, but he didn't see the crime in question. And at this point, TJ puts his head in his hand. Cyrus argues that he's a character witness. Gus asks if they can speed this up, but TJ admits that he doesn't think so. And it's like, yes, this is a bit of a romp, this is a bit of a funny display in regards to Cyrus's character, but I love it because it means that we're getting back to the antics that we saw these two have previously. The chemistry that these two characters have, I feel like, is just so intriguing to watch. You have Cyrus, who is just acting very unapologetically himself with this over-the-top lawyer persona, and then we have TJ, who used to be the type that would maybe make fun of him for all of this, but now he loves him for it. Is he a little bit annoyed and embarrassed by his antics? Sure, but he still lets them continue and just like accepts his fate. And there's also the fact that Cyrus is even doing all of this for TJ. I feel like it just highlights the fact that he cares about him so much and how important it is for him that people see him for who he is, which is a good person. We then have a break for Buffy's basketball game that they all attend, and afterwards TJ gets a text that the court has reached a verdict. So they head back to student court. TJ and Cyrus run in. Gus asks that the defendant please rise, and Cyrus rises with him. Gus says, "Not you, Mr. Goodman," but Cyrus argues that he thinks he knows him by now. TJ is then found guilty, and Cyrus proclaims that the system is broken and that they demand an appeal. But TJ tells him to stop fighting. Cyrus argues that he'll never stop. TJ just tells him that he did his best, and this part he has to face on his own. So Cyrus sits down, and Gus says that they sentence him to the harshest punishment allowed by this court: lunchtime detention on Monday. TJ then looks to Cyrus in confusion before he asks, "That's it?" Cyrus is surprised that that's the harshest punishment that they're allowed to give, but then Gus just reminds them that it's only student court. Both TJ and Cyrus let out a happy sigh of relief. TJ then puts his hand on Cyrus's shoulder and he does the same to him. He asks if he'll visit him while he's on the inside, and Cyrus jokes that he'll bake him a cake with a hall pass in it. Court is adjourned and the boys hug. In the end, we have some deja vu as TJ approaches Cyrus with a golf cart and asks if he wants a ride. Cyrus jokes that somebody learned nothing from their time in the system.
What can I say? I live on the edge.
Well, I live in the middle.
Cool. I'll drive you there.
What happens if we get caught?
You know what happens.
I guess I could skip a lunch.
TJ then tells him to buckle up, and they let out some screams of enjoyment as he takes them on a joyride around the schoolyard. So very sweet, definitely one of my favorite moments that they have throughout the series. Although it did have me wondering, because Cyrus jokes that he won't mind the punishment that they'll get for this. But then if Cyrus is going to be punished, then why wasn't Buffy punished for the original crime? Was it because she was injured? If so, I feel like that's kind of unfair because she still willingly participated in the golf cart ride, just like Cyrus does at the end. Maybe it's because he's more of a willing participant than Buffy was, like he knows the whole situation, whereas Buffy didn't really. She just like saw a golf cart and hopped on. But maybe that's me being nitpicky. Getting back to the good, I did really enjoy this episode. Like I said, it was nice to get back to them having a good storyline together, and this was a really great way to end the episode. And with that, we have made it to our finale, which is crazy, but also just makes me a little bit sad. Just because I love this ship so much, and I could honestly sit here and talk about them for hours and hours on end. And this ship is also arguably one of the best ones in the series, and it's just so unfortunate that they are so short-lived. I feel like we're still just at like the cusp of their story getting started, and yet this is where it ends. Nonetheless, let's get into it. So Andy is throwing a party. It's a very fun full circle moment to her and Bex throwing a party near the beginning of the series. And of course, our story starts when TJ arrives at the party. Buffy calls him over and he waves and Cyrus waves back, but then Kira comes in and Cyrus's face falls. And I personally found this to be such an annoying wake-up call, especially after we got such a great Tyrus episode. I almost completely forgot about Kira's existence altogether, but now it's like we've just been hit with the reminder that that has yet to be resolved. Buffy asks if he knows why he's hanging out with her and says that it's not because he likes her. Cyrus argues that she keeps saying that, and yet, and then we pan to see TJ with his arm around Kira. Buffy then comforts Cyrus, telling him that he's sorry. Wait, she's a girl. Buffy then comforts Cyrus, telling him that she's sorry, but he argues that he was probably deluding himself anyways, which is just so sad to hear him say. Later, Kira asks TJ why he doesn't want to dance. He says that he just doesn't, but tells her that she can go ahead. But then she begins to laugh over Cyrus's dancing. TJ asks what's so funny, and she tells him to look at Cyrus and calls it hilarious. TJ smiles widely at him and then tells Kira that she can't do that. She asks, do what? And he says, laugh at someone for the way that they dance. She argues that he did it too, but he tells her that no, he didn't. She then pushes, saying that she saw the way that he was smiling and that he thought it was funny. But he argues that he thought that it was fun. There's a difference. She knows that, right? And honestly, like if Kira genuinely thinks that that smile that TJ gave was him making fun of Cyrus, then I don't think he's the delusional one. I think it's her. Maybe it's just my shipping brain talking, but I personally feel like anybody with eyes could tell that that smile was coming from a place of endearment. She then asks that he just admit what this is really about. If she made him pick her or Cyrus, he'd pick Cyrus. And I'm just like, yeah, obviously. Like, besides the fact that he's known Cyrus for longer, he also doesn't suck and is kind to people, and as TJ goes on to say, he never gave him an ultimatum like she is right now. It also reminds me of the Buffy and Cyrus argument from the previous season where she also made him choose, and I'm like, why is everybody trying to make these boys choose? Like, is this all just one big bi analogy? Maybe, I don't know. Just let them be in love, my god. So TJ then asks why she does that, make him pick. He then looks over to Cyrus as he notes that he never made him pick. And so I feel like that is our confirmation that this is all a big bi analogy, right? Like I feel like that verbiage here is so telling. It's also worth noting that Cyrus never made him feel like he was the better option as opposed to Kira, even though Kira constantly did that with Cyrus. Instead, he let TJ figure out his feelings all on his own, and I feel like that is just so important. Anyways, Kira concludes that that answers her question and she leaves. Finally. Later, we see TJ begin to play Born This Way on the keyboard. Cyrus then begins to sing and he smiles at him. Amber then joins in and TJ encourages everybody to join as well. TJ and Cyrus also share a line together, and we see them singing throughout the rest of the song as well. And I feel like this is probably the gayest thing that we've seen so far, and I loved it. But now it is time. We have reached our final and arguably most memorable and iconic Tyrus moment of all time. So get ready, because I honestly, like, part of me feels like I'm not even worthy to recap this, but I will try my best. So TJ takes a seat outside and Cyrus asks if he can join him. He then asks what happened to Kira, and TJ jokes that he poured water on her and she melted. So he knew that she was awful, and yet he still chose to spend time with her, to the point where he was hardly spending any time with Cyrus. Like, maybe I'm looking into this too much, but I really hope that he just like is all realizing this now and didn't realize this the whole time. Cyrus jokes that he actually buys that. TJ admits that she isn't a nice person, and Cyrus reminds him that people used to say that about him. TJ notes that sometimes there's a nice person inside that's just trying to get out, and Cyrus admits that he knows that now. And I really like this line because I feel like it further confirms my suspicions that if we did get another season, then Kira would have been properly developed. And it also maybe explains why TJ did spend so much time with her. Like, maybe he could sense that there was some good in her and he was trying to get that out, but it didn't end up working out. I don't know. Cyrus then confesses that there's a lot of things that he doesn't know, like that he plays piano. TJ shares that his mom is a piano teacher, and Cyrus admits that he didn't know that either. TJ lets out a laugh before saying that he's not that mysterious and he can ask him anything. So Cyrus asks what TJ stands for, but then he says anything except that. Cyrus is shocked that he won't tell him his name, and TJ scoffs. He then says that there's like 5 people in the world that know it, and they're all named Kippen. Cyrus sincerely says that he should know that if he doesn't tell him, then he will be the first person ever to literally die of curiosity. TJ then scoffs again, admitting that he doesn't know, but then he caves. He says that if he tells him, he can never use it. Cyrus says that he won't, and TJ adds, or tell anyone else. Cyrus promises, TJ makes him swear, and so he does. TJ then shares that his parents were really into music, and so they named him after their favorite artists. Cyrus argues that that's not so strange, but then TJ confesses that TJ stands for Thelonious Jagger. Cyrus repeats this after him and asks if he's kidding. TJ shakes his head in embarrassment, but Cyrus beams, calling it a great name. He loves that name. TJ is surprised by this, as he shares that his grandparents didn't. They were like, that's a ridiculous name, we're calling him TJ. And so he's been TJ ever since he was 3 days old. Cyrus smiles at this, but then his smile begins to waver. TJ then asks if there's anything else that he wants to know as his hand inches closer to his. Cyrus notices this and then begins to smile.
Is there anything else you want to tell me?
Yeah. Is there anything you want to tell me?
Yes.
So I don't even know if I'll be able to include any of that scene in this video because the background music is so loud, but I really hope that I am, because I feel like on paper, like when I was just recapping the scene, like it does read a little bit simple, which I also feel like is part of what makes the scene so good, but I also feel like it is so much more than that. It actually makes me emotional even just talking about it, because it is so subtle, but it is also so perfect at the same time. Like, you know exactly what they're talking about. And I think a big part of that is attributed to the actors, because they do so well in this scene. And it also just makes me emotional because this was such a powerful and a milestone moment for Disney Channel. Like, are you kidding? Do you understand how big of a moment this was? Like, this was our first gay storyline that was ever seen on the channel by 2 main characters. And don't even come at me in the comments about that one Good Luck Charlie episode, or Josh from The Lodge, who I also loved, but he never actually got to date anybody. This was revolutionary at the time. I feel like Tyrus paved the way for like High School Musical the series, or The Owl House. Like, I really don't know if those ships would have been allowed to happen if it wasn't for Tyrus. And maybe that's part of the reason why I love them so much, because they really were a first for the channel. And like I said, watching the show in real time, it was kind of unclear as to if they were actually going to go there. And so this was the scene that confirmed it. It confirmed that we weren't crazy, that this is what is happening, and I personally feel like they did it in such a good way. And not just because of their ages here, but also because of where we were at in their story at this point. I feel like every time I go back and revisit this scene, I try to like disillusion myself and be like, they're just holding hands. Like, how good could this moment really be? Like, is it really as good as I remember? But then it is every single time. I love this scene so much. It is so perfect. I love TJ and Cyrus so much. They are so perfect. And I am really sad that we've reached the end of this video, because I feel like the possibilities as to where their story could go from here are just endless. I personally like to think that they did eventually get together and they did stay together for at least a few years. Do I think that they stayed together forever and got married and lived happily ever after? No, because they are 15, but I definitely feel as though they were one another's first loves. And I would have absolutely loved to have seen their relationship unfold in high school, but unfortunately, we never got the chance to. And so that does wrap up our TJ and Cyrus love story. This was one of my most requested ship videos to do, and so I really hope that I did them justice. It is just so unfortunate that this is where their story ends, but I still feel like that doesn't take away from how important their story is. These two always kind of reminded me of like a younger version of Charlie and Nick from Heartstopper, and I think if we did ever get a spin-off with the two of them together in high school, it probably would have looked very similar to that series. But as always, please let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on Tyrus down below. I can't wait to read all about it. I also always forget to like ask you guys to subscribe, so if you do enjoy this series of mine, please consider subscribing as it does help out a lot. And don't forget to let me know what ship you'd like to see me cover next, either in the comments or in the Google Forms linked in the description. But with all that being said, that's all I have to say for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. I feel like I got a little bit heated at the end there, and I don't really know why. I just love these two so much, honestly.